I've always had a strong commitment to professional development, and that's reflected in the studies that I've done throughout my career. With each job that I've taken on, I've looked at what study I can do, what professional associations I can be part of, and I think that's a very important part of being a professional, as you maintain your knowledge. And so I've been aware of the Institute of Management for some time, and when I left the Parliament and went out as a management consultant, one of the first things I wanted to do was look for organisations that I thought could assist me in making myself better in my job. And the Institute of Management was obviously one of those professional organisations. In terms of the value I get from it, I find the Institute of Management has been greatly enhancing in terms of my understanding of management issues. It assists me, I guess, not only in the management consulting work I did initially, but even when I'm working at the board level, I think it's very important to have a good understanding of what management issues there are in organisations, some of the issues, some of the trends, research, current thinking on various management issues. And so I think that the Institute of Management provides that not only in my management roles but also in my directorship roles. I've always been aware that the Institute of Management has been in existence and has been one of the premier management associations, certainly in Queensland and nationally. My motivation for joining the Institute of Management was I was working in a management role and I really wanted to continue my professional development, and so the Institute of Management was an obvious choice in terms of being able to do that. I guess I also had a motivation in wanting to be better networked, and I also saw that as a key benefit of my membership. I think thought leadership and sharing of knowledge and networks in which to share knowledge and experiences. That's what I draw from the Institute of Management through a variety of different means and media, and it's very accessible in terms of accessing all of those services. So wherever I am, I feel that I've got some sort of ability to inroad into the Institute of Management, which I think is imperative when you've got a busy life such as I do. I think for any candidate, for any position, whether it's in a management position or in a board position, there's some key things that any recruiter will be looking for. And obviously knowledge and experience and skills is one aspect, but also an ability to want to continually learn and continually develop. So having the membership of organisations such as the Institute of Management is obviously an important part of being able to show that you are engaged and committed to continual improvement. So certainly those sorts of associations and memberships are very important, I think, to any role, including at the higher level roles that we're often looking at people in the context of. One of the key benefits of the Institute of Management is that you are able to customise what you need in terms of the service offerings from the Institute. So for example, in my context, I'm looking for higher level learnings, for management at a senior level and for networks at that level. And I'm able to do that through various events, through various publications and through other avenues that the Institute offers. I think that's one of the key benefits of the Institute, is that no matter what level you manage at, what industry you're in, and what your professional background is, you're able to tap into the Institute at some point and be able to then get value from your membership. I think that you have to remain committed in order to really make the most of any sort of professional membership. And by that approach, you find different ways to be able to be connected. So, for example, with the Australian Institute of Management, there's various levels on which I connect and use my membership. I read the Management Today magazine each month when it comes through, and obviously I can fit that into any time of my schedule, which is very handy. I read emails that come through on various events, and again I can schedule those into a weekend or after hours, which is very useful. I do have to be selective as to what I attend. My experience with events such as the in-camera sessions has been positive, and as soon as I get notification that one of those events is on, I'll put it in my diary, so I make sure I prioritise it. I think you do have to be committed, but I'm a strong believer that you're only a member of an association if you want to really make good use of that. Having the letters after your name doesn't really mean a lot unless you can show in practice that you're involved. And I think people generally know whether you're involved or not by who you know and how you're talking about issues. So I certainly encourage any people not just to join an association for the sake of it, but to make the most of it. And the Institute of Management offers various levels through which you can do that. So even when you're busy, there's ways in which you can still engage and be connected. I think the Institute of Management has done particularly well at offering different media through which you can be connected. So there's a range of offerings, some of which aren't time intensive and some of which are time selective. So that's a great advantage of the offering that the Institute makes. I think one of the real advantages of the Institute of Management is not only are you getting the professional knowledge and the professional updates, but also the networking opportunities that it presents. And certainly I've made some invaluable connections through attending events such as the in-camera boardroom sessions, where there's a smaller group of people. It's a more intimate type of setting, and you get to sit around a table and talk to people. I've met some of Brisbane's business leaders through that and made ongoing connections with them, which has been very valuable to me in my work. And I've met other people who don't necessarily directly relate to what I do, but who have lessons from their work that I can certainly learn from and apply to what I do. So that's a dual benefit, I think, of a lot of my membership experience. You need to know who's around town, what they're doing. So I think networking is absolutely essential, and I certainly set aside part of my week for networking in one shape or form. So professional organisations, I think, are a key way in which you do network, and the Institute of Management is one of the ways through which I network with people who I think are at the level I need to network with, and through various offerings that the Institute has, I'm able to do that. I think that some of the themes that the Institute of Management has run has been almost trend-setting in some respects. For example, I know that each year when it's International Women's Day, the Institute of Management runs a number of activities around that, and I think that's an important part of the Institute and raises issues that otherwise mightn't get the prominence that they get. So I congratulate the Institute of Management on running some of those issues so successfully. I think the Institute of Management offers currency and diversity in its programs, in its seminars, and in all of its offerings. So that, I think, means that it appeals to a wide range of people, whether you're a more junior manager or whether you're a senior manager. And for example, myself, I utilise a range of aspects of the Institute of Management in the work that I do. So I utilise the bookstore, I read the magazines, which I find very useful for keeping my knowledge up to date, and also attend many of the in-camera sessions that are aimed at the Associate Fellow and Fellow level, which I find to be very refreshing and invigorating. So I guess in terms of describing membership to other people, I'd say it's current, and it can be tailored to your learning style and to your learning needs. If I was asked by someone why would they join the Institute of Management, I guess my key messages to them would be to continually learn, to network, and to stay abreast of what's happening in management, both nationally and internationally, because they're the things that the Institute of Management offers.